you know?
Well, I needed attention and money, and I needed to do songs.
Yeah.
I have songs I've been blessed to be able to play.
Sly Stone was the revolutionary genius behind Sly and the Family Stone, the man who invented funk and turned Woodstock into a celebration of unity and groove. He once said he just got to play music, and that's what he did. But behind those psychedelic outfits and infectious rhythms, Stone reportedly harbored some seriously dark feelings toward fellow musicians. The man who preached dance to the music and everyday people was actually fighting bitter wars with some of music's biggest names. These weren't just simple musical rivalries. They involved accusations of creative theft, racial politics, and personal grudges that shaped the sound of popular music. From soul legends who dismissed his innovations to rock bands who allegedly stole his thunder. From disco acts who corrupted his vision to what some say was the ultimate betrayal that destroyed his faith in the music industry, Sly Stone's relationships with other musicians tell a darker story. These grudges weren't just about music. They were about respect, recognition, and the complex racial dynamics of the music industry in the 1960s and 1970s. Stone's conflicts reveal the tensions between traditional and innovative approaches to music, between commercial success and artistic integrity, and ultimately between collaboration and paranoia. The Temptations, old guard versus new vision. The feud with the Temptations was all about tradition versus innovation in soul music. The tension reportedly started when Stone began revolutionizing soul music with his integrated band and psychedelic funk approach in the late 1960s. While the Temptations represented the polished, choreographed perfection of Motown, Stone was creating something completely different: raw, political, and boundary-pushing. Industry insiders claim the bad blood began when members of the Temptations made dismissive comments about Stone's sloppy stage perf, romances, and unconventional musical arrangements. Stone didn't take everything as seriously as other people did, and this casual approach apparently bothered the more traditional soul performers. Sources close to Stone reported that he was furious about what he saw as old guard resistance to musical evolution. He allegedly called the Temptations museum pieces trying to hold back the future. The rivalry became more personal when both acts were competing for the same audiences and festival slots during the height of the civil rights era. Stone allegedly felt that the Temptations' safe, apolitical approach was undermining the more revolutionary message he was trying to convey through his music. While the Temptations sang about love and relationships in carefully crafted harmonies, Stone was addressing social issues and pushing for change through his integrated band and experimental sound. The breaking point supposedly came when Stone learned that members of the Temptations had been making comments to industry executives about his band's interracial lineup. They allegedly suggested that the integration was a gimmick rather than a genuine artistic statement. This hit Stone particularly hard because his integrated band was central to his vision of music as a force for social change. The racial mixing wasn't just for show. It was a political statement about unity and equality. Stone reportedly told friends that the Temptations were Uncle Toms in matching suits. This harsh judgment reflected his frustration with what he saw as their willingness to play it safe and avoid challenging racial boundaries. While he was risking his career by creating something new and potentially controversial, he felt they were taking the easy path of entertainment without social consciousness. Santana, spirituality versus social change. The rivalry with Santana was about who really deserved credit for revolutionizing rock music with multicultural influences. The bad blood allegedly started when both Sly Stone and Carlos Santana were being hailed as pioneers of multicultural rock music in the late 1960s. While Stone was blending funk, rock, and soul with his integrated band, Santana was incorporating Latin rhythms and spiritual themes into rock music. Industry sources claim Stone felt that Santana was getting undeserved credit for innovations that he had pioneered first. Stone allegedly told friends that Santana's approach was surface-level spirituality for white hippies who want to feel enlightened, while his own music addressed real social and political issues. This criticism reflected Stone's belief that music should be more than just entertainment or spiritual exploration. It should actively work for social change. The rivalry became particularly bitter because both bands were often compared by critics and festival organizers. Many suggested that Santana's guitar-driven approach was more serious than Stone's funk-based experimentation. Stone reportedly resented this characterization, feeling that his songwriting and production innovations were being overlooked in favor of flashy guitar solos and exotic mysticism. The tension escalated when both bands performed at Woodstock, with Santana receiving massive critical acclaim for their performance. It took a while, but when success came, it was a great gift for Santana. Something shifted for both the band and their audience during that legendary performance. Sources close to Stone claim he felt that Santana's success was built on exotic mysticism rather than genuine musical innovation, and that critics were responding to surface-level spirituality rather than deeper artistic achievement. The breaking point supposedly came when Santana made comments in interviews about the importance of consciousness in music. Stone allegedly interpreted these remarks as a criticism of his more party-oriented funk material. He reportedly told industry friends that Santana was preaching from a soapbox made of guitar solos. The most damaging alleged incident occurred when both bands were being considered for a major music festival. Stone learned that promoters had chosen Santana because they were seen as more respectable and less likely to cause controversy. This decision reportedly infuriated Stone, who felt that his more challenging and politically engaged music was being rejected in favor of what he saw as safe spirituality. He allegedly told his management that Santana represented sell-out spirituality for suburban seekers. Earth, Wind & Fire, Revolution versus Entertainment. The feud with Earth, Wind & Fire was about authentic funk versus commercial polish, and it was deeply personal. The rivalry allegedly started when Earth, Wind & Fire began achieving massive commercial success in the mid-1970s with their slick, highly produced approach to funk and soul music. While Stone had pioneered the funk sound with raw experimental recordings, EWF was perfecting it for mainstream consumption. Industry insiders claimed Stone felt that Earth, Wind & Fire was stealing his musical innovations while removing everything that made them culturally significant. He allegedly told friends that Maurice White and his band were turning Revolution into Vegas entertainment, sanitizing funk for audiences who couldn't handle its original political message. This criticism went to the heart of Stone's artistic philosophy. He believed music should challenge and change people, not just entertain them. The tension became really ugly when sources close to Stone reported that he was particularly resentful of EWF's spiritual and mystical imagery. He saw this as appropriating African cultural symbols without understanding their deeper meaning. Stone allegedly called their approach costume party consciousness for people who think incense equals enlightenment. This harsh judgment reflected his belief that true spirituality couldn't be separated from social and political awareness. The rivalry intensified when Earth, Wind & Fire began receiving critical acclaim and Grammy recognition that Stone felt should have gone to more authentic funk pioneers. He reportedly told industry friends that EWF's success proved that audiences preferred fake depth over real innovation. While his own career was struggling with personal and professional problems, he watched EWF achieve the commercial success that had eluded him in recent years. The breaking point supposedly came when Stone learned that some of his former musicians had joined Earth, Wind & Fire's touring band. These musicians allegedly took his musical arrangements and performance techniques to their new employer. Stone reportedly felt this was the ultimate betrayal, telling friends that EWF was stealing my sound with my own people. The idea that his own collaborators would take his innovations to a band he saw as commercially compromised was devastating to him. The most revealing alleged incident occurred at a 1970s awards ceremony where both acts were nominated in similar categories. Witnesses claim Stone made pointed comments about bands that mistake production value for artistic value, remarks widely interpreted as directed at Earth, Wind & Fire's polished approach to funk music. Stone's alleged resentment toward EWF represented his broader frustration with how the music industry commercialized and diluted the revolutionary potential of funk music. Led Zeppelin, cultural appropriation versus innovation. The rivalry with Led Zeppelin was about cultural appropriation versus authentic innovation in rock music. The bad blood allegedly started when Led Zeppelin began incorporating funk and blues elements into their heavy rock sound during the early 1970s. While Stone had been creating original fusions of rock, funk, and soul, Zeppelin was taking existing musical forms and adapting them for rock audiences. Industry sources claim Stone was particularly irritated by Led Zeppelin's approach to rhythm and groove. He felt it was a shallow imitation of the deep funk he had pioneered. Stone allegedly told friends that Zeppelin was stealing black music and calling it innovation, reducing complex rhythmic concepts to simple rock patterns. This criticism reflected his understanding of funk as more than just a rhythm. It was a complete musical philosophy rooted in African-American experience. Stone thought music had to involve everybody, and he felt that Zeppelin's approach was exclusive rather than inclusive. While his own band featured musicians of different races working together as equals, he saw Zeppelin as representatives of white rock music's tendency to take from black culture without giving proper credit or compensation. The feud became particularly intense because Stone reportedly felt that Led Zeppelin's massive commercial success was built on appropriating musical elements that black artists had created but weren't receiving proper recognition for. He allegedly saw Zeppelin as representative of rock music's tendency to profit from black innovation without acknowledgement. This wasn't just about musical style. It was about justice and recognition in an industry that often overlooked the contributions of black artists. The rivalry intensified when both bands were competing for festival headline spots and critical recognition as rock innovators. Stone allegedly resented that Zeppelin's guitar-heavy approach was being hailed as more serious than his funk innovations. He told industry friends that rock critics only respect black music when white bands play it. This observation reflected his frustration with the racial dynamics of music criticism and promotion. The most damaging alleged incident occurred when both bands were being considered for a major rock festival. Stone learned that promoters had chosen Zeppelin because they were seen as more authentic rock performers. Stone allegedly told friends that this decision proved the music industry's racial bias, rewarding appropriation over innovation. The irony that a British band was considered more authentic than the American artist who had created the style was not lost on him. Parliament Funkadelic, Battle for the Funk Crown. The rivalry with Parliament Funkadelic was about who really owned the funk sound and who deserved to be called the godfather of funk. This betrayal was particularly painful because George Clinton and Sly Stone had initially been allies in the development of funk music. Both were pushing beyond traditional soul and R&B boundaries, creating new sounds that would influence generations of musicians. The tension allegedly started when Parliament Funkadelic began achieving massive success in the mid-1970s, just as Stone's career was becoming derailed by drug problems and erratic behavior. Industry sources claim Stone felt that Clinton was capitalizing on the funk innovations that he had pioneered while he was struggling with personal demons. The timing made this especially bitter. As Stone's star was falling, Clinton's was rising using what Stone saw as his musical concepts. Sources close to Stone reported that he believed George Clinton was deliberately appropriating his musical concepts and stage presentation style. Stone allegedly told friends that funk was stealing my entire aesthetic and calling it their own invention, from the psychedelic imagery to the integrated band concept. He had a partner backstage who could hit hard and fast with the truth about these alleged appropriations. The rivalry intensified when Clinton began being referred to as the godfather of funk in the music press, a title that Stone felt belonged to him as the original pioneer of the genre. Stone reportedly told industry friends that Clinton was rewriting history to make himself the hero of a story I started. This wasn't just about ego, it was about historical accuracy and proper recognition for his contributions to music. The breaking point supposedly came when Stone learned that some of his former band members had joined Parliament Funkadelic. These musicians allegedly brought his musical arrangements and songwriting techniques to Clinton's organization. Stone reportedly felt this was the ultimate betrayal, telling friends that Clinton was building an empire on my foundation. The idea that his own collaborators would take his innovations to a rival was devastating. This rivalry represented more than just competition between two artists. It reflected Stone's growing paranoia and isolation as his career declined. While Clinton was building a funk empire with multiple bands and concepts, Stone was withdrawing from the music world, unable to maintain the collaborative relationships that had made his music possible. The ultimate betrayal, Sly and the Family Stone. The band Sly Stone hated most was reportedly his own group, Sly and the Family Stone. This self-destructive hatred allegedly destroyed one of music history's most innovative ensembles. This represents the ultimate tragedy that explains Stone's descent into paranoia and isolation. While the world saw Sly and the Family Stone as a unified creative force, Stone allegedly came to view his own band members as enemies who were plotting against him and stealing his creative vision. The hatred allegedly started when Stone became increasingly paranoid about his band members' loyalty and financial motivations. Sources close to the group reported that Stone began to believe his family members and longtime collaborators were conspiring to control his career and profit from his innovations without giving him proper credit. This paranoia was particularly tragic because the Family Stone had been built on principles of equality and collaboration. The band included family members and close friends, and their integrated lineup had been central to Stone's vision of music as a force for social unity. But as success brought pressure, and as Stone's drug use increased, he began to see enemies where there had once been allies. Industry insiders claim Stone became convinced that his band was deliberately sabotaging his performances and recordings to make him look unreliable. He believed this would allow them to take control of the group's direction and finances. Stone allegedly started viewing every creative suggestion from band members as an attempt to undermine his artistic authority. The collaborative spirit that had made the band great was replaced by suspicion and control. The breaking point supposedly came when Stone learned that some Family Stone members had been meeting with record label executives without his knowledge. They were allegedly discussing the group's future and their concerns about his erratic behavior. Stone reportedly interpreted this as the ultimate betrayal, telling friends that his own family was selling me out to the industry. From Stone's perspective, the people closest to him were plotting behind his back, but from the band members' perspective, they were probably trying to save their careers and the music they had all created together. Stone's increasing unreliability and erratic behavior was making it difficult for the band to function professionally. When he would show up hours late for concerts or not show up at all, the other members were left to deal with angry promoters and disappointed fans. The most devastating aspect of this self-hatred was how it destroyed Stone's ability to collaborate with anyone. The paranoia that started with his own band extended to everyone in his professional life. He began to see betrayal and conspiracy everywhere, making it impossible to maintain the creative relationships that music requires. This led to the complete breakdown of one of music's most innovative creative partnerships and Stone's eventual withdrawal from the music industry. The tragedy is that Stone's suspicions may have been partly justified. The music industry in the 1960s and 1970s was notorious for exploiting artists, particularly black artists. Musicians often found themselves cheated out of royalties and publishing rights. Stone's paranoia, while destructive, may have been rooted in real experiences of exploitation and betrayal. But by the time Stone turned against his own band, the paranoia had become self-defeating. Instead of protecting himself from exploitation, he was destroying the very relationships that made his music possible. The Family Stone represented everything Stone claimed to believe in: racial integration, musical innovation, and collaborative creativity. By destroying these relationships, he was destroying his own artistic legacy. The larger pattern: genius and isolation. These feuds and rivalries reveal a larger pattern in Sly Stone's career and personality. His revolutionary genius came with a paranoid hatred that ultimately consumed him and his legacy. From industry rivals to family betrayals, Stone's grudges destroyed the very relationships that made his music possible. Stone's conflicts weren't just personal disputes. They reflected larger tensions in the music industry and American society. His feuds with traditional soul acts like The Temptations reflected the generational and philosophical divide between civil rights-era respectability politics and the more radical Black Power movement. His rivalry with white rock bands like Led Zeppelin highlighted ongoing issues of cultural appropriation and recognition in popular music. The tragedy is that Stone's innovations were so far ahead of their time that he often found himself isolated and misunderstood. While other artists were content to work within established genres and expectations, Stone was constantly pushing boundaries and challenging assumptions. This pioneering spirit made him a genius, but it also made him enemies, and ultimately contributed to his downfall. Stone's story serves as a cautionary tale about the price of innovation and the dangers of paranoia. His musical legacy is secure. Funk music and its countless derivatives owe their existence to his pioneering work. But his personal story is one of gradual isolation and self-destruction, as the same intensity and uncompromising vision that made his music great eventually made it impossible for him to work with others. The feuds and rivalries that defined Stone's relationships with other musicians ultimately say as much about the music industry and American society as they do about Stone himself. His conflicts reveal the racial tensions, commercial pressures, and creative competition that shaped popular music in one of its most innovative periods. Understanding these relationships helps us understand not just Sly Stone, but the complex world that produced some of the most important music of the 20th century. In the end, Sly Stone's grudges and feuds became part of his artistic legacy, showing us both the creative heights that genius can reach and the destructive depths to which it can fall. His story reminds us that the same qualities that make artists great, intensity, vision, uncompromising standards, can also make them impossible to work with and ultimately destroy the very thing they're trying to create.